Good morning. Yes, I am here 1 minute late. I may or may not explain why. Today, the title currently, and I say currently because I recently changed the title of this video just a few minutes ago. Oh, yeah, speaker bot. Let's check on that. I got to check on my own audio. Here we go.
DougBetts said I'm working here.
Yeah, there we go. And I'll go check on my own audio. Yep, I've got that. So, yeah, originally the title of today's live stream was for laptop keyboard replacement. But after reviewing the manual this morning, I decided, no, I'm not going to do that during the show. It probably will become a recorded, edited video. Maybe there'll be a live component to it. Not sure yet. Yeah, I didn't get around to fixing her. That was windy. When she has the storm clouds over her head, I call her Stormy. It's a nickname. Her actual born name, assigned name, is Windy at birth. So I am going to talk about the laptop keyboard replacement preparation today. And I'm going to take care of a few other things before I really get into that. But one of the issues, although it's not a game stopper, is this the right keyboard? It's not an exact match. And I'm going to suggest, for those of you who are interested, you might duplicate your YouTube tab and pause the video at this point so you can see the upper keyboard is the original. The keyboard on the below that is the replacement. Trying to get a little better focus. And you can find how they don't match. Size-wise, they do match. I've compared that very carefully. But there's something else about it that does not match. And we'll eventually tell you about that. But I'm going to go down a couple other avenues first because there are some channel comments that I want to cover. Now, this laptop, I've promised it back to the client today. So it's either going to go back to the client in its original state as she brought it to me so that we can prepare more properly, or after the show is over and I start looking deeper into the remaining issues, I'll decide whether I can actually complete it today or not. Phil Stott is saying the F1 key is different. Yes, that is one of the, two items I think that were different. But yeah, you nailed it, Phil. Yeah, there's one other. And then Brian Lightfoot is saying the any key is different. Press any key. Yeah, that once upon a time, my mother did report to me that she did look around trying to see what did they mean by the any key. INNY, she was hearing it as any key, like inward. No. All right. Yeah, over here, let's go to some channel comments I wanted to respond to. Oh, this has been happening for a few days on a couple of my computers where I go to community and this is the only one that says, oops, something wrong, and it's not working. And what I have to do is go to another tab. Let's see if I can duplicate this tab, because that tab will always come up with that. Yeah, here, nope, still something wrong. So if I actually go to youtube.com/LWTDB, that'll take me to my channel. And then come up here in the upper right corner and go to the YouTube studio. And then community, this will work. There we go. Now these two I'm still holding on to. Dan the Man, or Dan Manson, not Dan the Man. Dan the Man is a regular in the community. Dan Manson. We responded to during the show yesterday, and I sent him a link to this point in the show. Oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and give him another link, shall we? 304. Because I'll start from here. I already addressed him a little bit. But anyway, we responded to Dan Manson yesterday, sent him a link. Then he replied, thank you. He was the one that asked about the key from SECDK deals. He was actually using the old link, and I've given him the new link, and I changed the link in that video to be Carrie Holzman's current link. But he was asking, will that activate? And so I explained how that worked. And he says, I find that the MS Microsoft upgrade process is so illogical, but your walkthrough and explanation were very clear. I very much appreciate you responding so quickly to my question. My upgrade looks to have gone well. So he has completed it. It is done, over with. Thank you very much, Dan, for giving us that follow-up. We love to hear follow-ups from people, how it went for them. No, I'm not trying to reply again. I already did the reply. Eager beaver finger there. And yeah, that completes Dan. And then, yeah, I am Kenster. This is a new person, right? So he claims, I'm new here, but aren't Wendy and Story one and the same? Asking for a friend in Georgia. Yeah, well, he meant Stormy. He's confused because sometimes I call her Wendy, sometimes I call her Stormy. When she has storm clouds overhead, I use her nickname of Stormy. Otherwise, she's Wendy. And I think Wendy was suggested by somebody when I first brought up that character. And I think it was suggested because of, you know, Wendy's, the hamburger joint. Somehow that Wendy reminded them. So that's Stormy. I got to figure out which way to move to get out of her way. And I did figure out why that's happening, why she's not staying where I want her to be. I'm not going to give him a timestamp. How about that? Had a phone conversation with Ken yesterday. Enjoyed having a conversation with him. Musketeer, what about the, oh, whoops, got to do this. Gotta do this. 449. And by the way, I did reset that timer for the late start. I had to go and change the timer to start at 9:01 local time.
Raid chat, please.
John Williams says, Stormy has a mind of her own, LOL. Yeah, actually, the problem is that her mind is intermixed with the other random things that I have, because originally Stormy and Princess were included in the random trigger. Well, now they're a subcategory of that, and it turns out when I make a change to the higher level category for all the randoms, that adversely impacts Princess and Stormy, because both Princess and Stormy are not working right now. Oh, I gotta go change this, don't I? Because whoops, didn't mean to do that. Oh, that just took me to the show. See, I didn't, oh, I can't. Delete. Because I didn't talk to him. I got distracted with your read chat, please message. No, yeah, it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. 523. So, Musketeer says, what about the Android app? And this is regarding Yahoo Mail layout. Musketeer, I have not looked at the Android app at all for Yahoo. I'm assuming that you're implying that Yahoo has changed the Android app. Whether you can go into a settings menu and change back to the standard edition, I don't know. You'd have to go poking around in there to find it. If somebody in the community has an Android and wants to go explore that, please go do that, and we'll report back to Musketeer whatever you find. Now, see, Princess. Well, no, let's keep talking about Musketeer. Is there anything else I need to say about that? Because yeah, when you say what about the Android app, I have to make assumptions about what you mean by that. The most obvious thing to me is that they've changed the layout in the Android app in a way that you don't like. So if you want to give us more information, there may be somebody in the community with an Android phone who's willing to pursue that further, because we do like to help people with whatever issues that they have. And we're here 6 days a week doing that. And I think you already know that because you watched that other video that gave that promo. That's the email address that you can send a question to. Or you could send some screenshots of what you see on your Android app. Maybe when you go into the settings page on your Android Yahoo Mail app. Or actually, is there an Android app from the Google Play App Store for Yahoo Mail, or are you actually using a browser? If you're launching a browser on your Android, then you should be able to make the same changes to the interface, and that might be a workaround. If you don't like what they've done with the app, try opening a web browser, go to the Yahoo web page. Now look in your browser menu to see if there's, or
read chat, please.
Somewhere on your Android, to see if there is a place where you can say display as a desktop, display the desktop version of this web page. You might need to look at that. And Ran Israel in chat says there is a dedicated app. So this is the way it works around here, Musketeer, is I will show you this right now, eventually. Pop this out, pop out the chat, because people are interacting with me during the live show, responding to things that we say. And Ran Israel here saying there is a dedicated Yahoo app. But and that probably is what you're referring to, because you do use the word Android app. So anyway, hope to hear back from you. Now that is already replied. If I click on this reply, that's doing a new reply. I don't need to do that. All right. Now let's get into, should I go to today's topic now, or should I go say hello in chat? John Williams, the Beach Boys was the traitor. There's a link in the description for that. Martin Hogg, Ran Israel, Selden Ball, Rick Lakes, Charlie Purdy, Wintermute. Hello, everybody. DougBot, good to see you. What? Wait? Yeah, good to see you. All right, I'll give you that. Phil Stodd, Brian Lightfoot, Lawn Dog, John Williams. Greg M. Some Dell keyboard replacements are a pain in the family-friendly version anterior. They are plastic welded in. Not in this case. It's this is held on by magnets. Now I see you, Keith. He's suggesting another word for A. The British pronunciation of the actual word. I think that's way to describe it. Arrow keys. F1 is different. Were the arrow keys different? No, not that I see. Well, Das joke. Oh, F1 key is different. All right. I don't remember that one. I'm going to scan through a little bit so I can get onto what I want to show. F8 key is different. F8, yes, it is. And then also the F5 was different. So I'll give you that here. For those of you who didn't play the home game and figure this out, the F1 right there, the original one is for dimming the display, and the new one is for microphone. It's really hard for me to see this. I know a way for me to make this better. I'll do this. We are going to probably be a little over time today. Focus just sucks. All right, I'm trying to change the focus. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, so F1, F2 is different. F2 on the new keyboard mutes the speaker. Oh no, that's the same thing. I was looking at the wrong key. I was looking at the number keys. Okay, then I'm looking across. Yeah, the F5 key is different. One brightens the screen on the new keyboard. The old keyboard is for play, pause. And then F6 is the same. F7 is the same. F8 is different. Where I think the F8 key is for like choosing whether you're going to do an external monitor or the internal monitor, as opposed to the old keyboard is print screen. Then there's home, end, page up, page down, power button, delete keys. There we go. All right. Yeah, dimensionally it fits. Lawn Dog makes a comment about it. But there is another slight concern about the keyboard. But let me get you to the place that I like to go with laptop replacements. I don't do laptop teardowns frequently enough to totally ignore the manual. So I pulled up a manual for this, and there are some surprising things here. I think if somebody tries to go after this replacement without looking at the manual, they could be in for an unpleasant surprise. Now, there was a video that was similar but not quite right. I'll show you this. This video here, Microsoft Surface Laptop Model 1868. Well, this one is a Model 1867, and it is a different replacement keyboard. When you go searching for a keyboard, the 1867 is a different keyboard than the 1868. So there are some differences. This video is 7 minutes 42 seconds long, so it's highly edited. There are some things that they didn't actually show doing. So that gives me cause for pause. Then let me get to here. Yeah, so this is getting me to the manual. Oh, that's right. I already downloaded the manual. It went on another computer, and I put it into my OneDrive, so that means it's automatically accessible to this computer. So I go into service logs, and then I scroll to that particular client. And then to a new folder I created for the Surface Laptop 3. And then there's the PDF. And there's a folder in there for another one of their laptops. Okay, so here's the manual. And I will typically go for the table of contents to figure out where to go to, or even Control F and type keyboard. And here's one hit for keyboards. Does that match? Guitar, laptop, what? This isn't, oh, then there's 63 of them. I want to get to keyboard in the table of contents. So now it can be worth just looking over the table of contents. See cover keyboard assembly replacement process. Metal fabric. This laptop is fabric, not metal. Replacement process, keyboard metal. And it has all these steps in here. Now down here, replacement process, C cover keyboard fabric type. So you want to be careful to get to the right section. Typically when you click on the page number out here, it will go to that page, but this PDF doesn't seem to work that way. I do already know that the page numbers in the table of contents matches the PDF page numbers. That's not always the case. So I can just type 33 up here in this upper area here where I can put in the page number and then press enter. So replacement process, C covered keyboard fabric type. Be sure to follow all bolded notes of caution with each process section, required tools and components. Software tool, isopropyl alcohol, 70%, a Torx driver, heavy duty suction cups. This is one of my concerns right here. I have not yet tested my suction cups on this fabric keyboard because you're supposed to do the suction cups. Oops, not that one. Supposed to do the suction cups right in this area on the fabric. And thinking, really? Is that gonna work? So I want to do a little test of that first, and I did not have time to do that before show. Anti-static wrist strap, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. ESD safe battery cover, not gonna need that because I'm not gonna have it disassembled for any period of time. Components, seat cover, if replacing, refer to illustrated parts list. Now we got this replacement off of Amazon, not directly from Microsoft. And I don't think in hindsight that we even looked for that. New screw quantity 4 supplied with component. I also think if you buy the replacement keyboard directly from Microsoft, they also give you the replacement feet. They do make a point about don't reuse the old feet. Now I could do the replacement, and if there's a problem with the feet, perhaps we could order the feet separately. But if the feet are only available by buying the kit from Microsoft, then knowing this client the way that I do, I'm pretty sure she's going to want to have the laptop back as is, and let's return this Amazon keyboard replacement since we have the 30-day replacement for no reason. You don't have to give a reason. They ask you for a reason, but you don't have to give one. Yeah, it's got feet hiding the screws, and there's some unusual things about how that is accomplished. Prerequisite. Such a fancy word. Prerequisite steps. Power off the device. Ensure powered off, disconnected. General safety, general guidelines, ESD, yada, yada, yada. Remove the feet. Follow the steps for procedure removal. Non-skid feet. Page 23. So to get page 23, I'll come up here, highlight the page number, 23, enter. Now 33 is what we need to get back to for, no, we don't need to get back to 33 because, oh yeah, we do, because this is where it actually goes through the replacement. But I'm going to go look at that feet replacement because they have to have instructions for this. Plastic tweezers, spudge, or isopropyl alcohol. So the alcohol is not for cleaning off a CPU, heatsink. It has to do with the feet. Cleaning swabs, clamps, plastic feeler gauge. 50 thousandths? No, that's, yeah, 5 thousandths. I think that's 0.05 millimeter. Yeah, not thousandths. I'm thinking of a feeler gauge for doing spark plugs and lifters on a car engine. And then the replacement feet. Power off, general safety, position the device, procedural. So they have some tips here about removing the feet. And I think if somebody just goes after it, you're probably going to break off these tabs. Could possibly break off these tabs. Front foot removal procedure is different than the rear foot removal. Really? Wow. To remove, what I'm doing here, the reason I'm taking the time to do this is say, don't feel embarrassed or less of a macho technician that you think that you are a wimp for looking at the manual. I very, very much encourage people to use manuals unless you're doing this on a daily basis and you've done this kind of a computer before. Yeah, John Williams, that's right. Rocker arms on cylinder head, very old school. Yeah, been there, done that. Front foot removal, to remove front feet, insert, point it in. The plastic exposure tool pictured from the long side of the device under the foot. There's a design gap. You wouldn't know this. There is a designed gap on the front. This is the back of the computer. This one, they don't actually show the spudger tool on the front, but this is the front. They're saying attack it from the long edge of the front the long edge of the back, because there is this gap right here on that piece that is designed for you to be able to get your plastic spudger tool under that. If you go at it from the back, it's not going to work. You're probably going to break those tabs. Nice to have these little tips. Removal works best if the spudger is at a relatively low angle relative to the tabletop. Nice to have that tabletop. Use plastic tweezers, not metal, to lift one edge of the front, grasp the loose end, and pull a foot from the D bucket. Now, admittedly, sometimes we don't exactly follow the instructions, but to have the instructions, it's good to know. David Couch is saying, who needs a tool? Pocket knife works too. Yeah, but if your intention is try to reuse these feet, yeah, you might be for a little surprise. And they recommend against reusing the feet. Have not yet decided that. I'm going to see about the availability. If we can order the whole keyboard replacement assembly directly from Dell and it's not too outrageous, we might turn around and do that. Adhesive removal. Remove any adhesive liners in the foot pockets. Now, why? Okay, they give a reason. I wasn't expecting that. Use IPA cotton wipes to clean off any adhesive residue within the foot pocket. Inspect the foot area carefully for any adhesive liner that may have remained. The liner is clear It may be hard to see at first glance. Inspect closely. Important, ensure the IPA is completely dried off the device. No adhesive residue is left before applying the new feet to avoid risk of insufficient adhesion of the new feet. In procedure, any further repairs that are required on the device should be carried out prior to feet installation. Do not reuse feet previously removed from a device. They don't really give a reason for this, but I'm pretty sure it's because they're just probably not going to stick very well. And if they don't stick very well, then you got a laptop that when you put it on a hard surface is going to flex. And I think they're probably trying to avoid that flex from happening. Prepare new front feet and press into place. To reassemble front foot, remove protective sheet to expose adhesive on foot. Align the 3 posts. Remember those 3 notches, posts that are on the foot? With their respective pockets on the bottom side of the unit, and hand press the foot in until the foot sits flat. Complete previous steps for the other front foot. Now, if you did not clean that adhesive off, I think it's probably their experience that some of that adhesive can get into those sockets and make it difficult to get those feet to seat completely. Or if you prefer the other way, to get those seat to feet completely. Clamp replaced feet. Align and press the center head of the clamp onto the front feet. Clamp both front feet for 4 minutes. Yeah, some of you are going to be saying, this is pretty excessive and hyper overkill. Maybe. Am I going to follow that? Not decided yet. Inspect for anomalies. Inspect feet to ensure no cosmetic damage or gaps between the feet and the D bucket. If a gap exists, use a feeder gauge to verify the gap is smaller than 0.05 millimeters. If gap is larger, replace foot. Prepare new back feet and press into place. To reassemble the back feet, remove protective sheet to expose adhesive on foot. Insert the foot into the pocket at the bottom side of the unit and hand press foot until the foot sits flat. Now, we haven't even got to removing the keyboard and the C cover yet, because there are some issues there. Inspect for anomalies. Inspect feet to ensure no cosmetic gaps. If the gap, run the STD. Really? STD? That's the best acronym you could come up with for that? Before transporting, excessive maybe, before transporting the device, we recommend letting it sit feet down on a tabletop for at least 24 hours. If this isn't possible, it is recommended to avoid placing the device in a backpack, purse, or other type of carrier until at least 12 hours after installing new feet. Obviously, they're wanting the adhesive to cure before it gets rubbed against against something else. I'm going to make a little adjustment here to my display so that I can see things more better. And do that one. Scroll this, enlarge this. This way I can look towards the camera. Then get a load of this. There's an alternate procedure. Any further repairs that are required on the device should be carried out prior to feet installation. Do not reuse. Prepare new feet. Press into place. Remove protective sheath to expose. What is different about those? The 3-post. Pinch with your thumb and forefinger. 20 seconds. Inspect for anomalies. Feeder gauge. Prepare the new back feet, press into place to reassemble the back feet, remove protective sheet. So far, I don't see what is alternative about this. Press the feet, inspect for anomalies. I don't see what's different about that alternative procedure. I'm not going to worry about that. Let's move on to here. So now we're back to C-cover keyboard assembly replacement process. Let's see, I'm going to go take a little diversion here. Is there anybody wondering what C-cover is? Now, by the way, right now I cannot see chat at all. Yeah, here, C-cover is, the A cover is the top lid where the logo is, B cover is the screen and bezel, C is the keyboard and touchpad area, D is the bottom cover. I hadn't come across those before, didn't know. Here it is. Okay, now then, you got to be very careful about this because you could just go reading down here and thinking this is what we need. No, because here it says replacement process, C-cover keyboard metal type. Now, if you hadn't paid attention to the table of contents, you could easily be mistakenly going down this road and treating it as though it was metal rather than the fabric. And I didn't compare those. I just didn't have time to go compare them. So we're still in the metal type, scrolling down to get to the fabric type. Because what I want to get to is here's some other things that are really useful, in my opinion, to know before you attack a job like this that you don't routinely do. C-cover keyboard fabric type. And by the way, when I talk to my clients about doing these replacements, I tell them there are companies around that specialize in this. They're experienced with this. It's going to cost more for me to do it probably than for them to do it. But the upside of having me do it is you're probably going to get it back the same day or the next day. Whereas if you take it to a shop, it might be a couple weeks before they get to yours. So typically my clients say, no, we feel comfortable with you. We want you to do it even if it costs more. That's okay. And I will charge them my time for referring to the manual. Now, I'm not going to add my time explaining the manual to you because that's not really part of doing the job. So here, fabric type, required tools and components. The software tool, that's what oh, you know what? I did ask that of Copilot, I think. No, I didn't. Thought I did. Software tool, I think it's just for testing. They had a Torx driver, the suction cups, static, yada, yada. The cover, it's replacing. Could somebody just, let's see. Who do I want to ask? Is Wintermute in chat? I just want one person to test SpeakerBot with an exclamation mark C. Wintermute, would you do that? All right, I'm going to do it.
Red chat, please.
All right, I heard that. Power off the device. Powered off, disconnected. Make sure the general guidelines ESD opening preferred. Follow steps for procedural removal non-skid feet. So going to this page 23, we've already been there. We've already looked at that. So then scroll down. Caution. Look at all these cautions. Take care to prevent from depressing the keyboard power button during this step. Wow, isn't that a nice thing to have pointed out? Because this keyboard has the power button is on this keyboard. So even when you're disconnected from AC power, this keyboard has power to it. So
Read chat, please.
How easy would that be to accidentally hit the power button? Nice thing to have in your mind. Be careful of that because you don't want it powering on while you're taking it apart. Thank you, Wintermute. Maybe he's a little bit behind. If power button is accidentally depressed and device turns on, shut down the device as normal through the start menu. So you're going to have to, if you've already got somewhat disassembled, because you could have the C cover removed from the computer and the ribbon cable still attached and accidentally hit that power button. So be careful about that. Prior to unscrewing, ensure the driver is seated correctly in the screw recess by lightly turning the driver clockwise, tightening the screw until it can be felt engaging fully with the screw. Also be sure the driver remains perpendicular to the device surface as much as possible during removal. Otherwise, there is a risk of stripping the screw heads. If you don't have the screwdriver, squarely, it's telling us these screws are made of soft material and they are easily stripped. The head of them is easily stripped. So they're saying be careful about this. Nice heads up. Screw head, heads up. Yeah, right. Ensure all 4 screws are removed from the enclosure before starting C cover removal. Otherwise, there's a high risk of irreversibly damaging the C cover. Are they saying that because some people have done that? Maybe. Fabric C covers utilize. This is one of the best written manuals that I've seen, by the way, for giving you tips of what to watch out for. Fabric C covers utilize magnets and a hook latching onto the chassis, whereas metal C covers do not. That's the main difference between the metal and the fabric. I did come across this earlier. So there is a hook on these fabric ones that is an extra piece, extra issue to deal with. With the metal covers, it's just a magnet. And once you get those screws out, it opens pretty easily. That video I watched, I think it was a magnet, a metal, because well, they didn't even talk about that in the video. Remove C cover exactly as described in this step to avoid damaging the flexible printed circuit connected between the C cover and the main board. When they say flexible metal circuit, they're referring to this ribbon cable. Here, they're referring to this flexible printed circuit. It is a printed circuit. You can see the electrical conductive paths that are actually printed on that ribbon cable. Remove C cover and hold in a hover position as described below to avoid damaging the display glass. So you're holding the cover here and they're concerned about damaging the display glass, I suppose, by bumping it up against it. Now keep in mind that when you're pulling this C cover off, that's not what this is. This is just the keyboard. Now, I haven't even read or found a part in the manual yet to see if there's any instructions for inserting this keyboard piece into the C cover, into this piece, because all this instruction is for taking the C cover off, which is all of that. Hold in position, avoid damaging, never rest the rear edge of the C cover on the device at the display hinge point, or allow the C cover to impact or touch the display during this step. Now I was thinking maybe there's some electrical conductivity of the display, and there's exposed electrical contacts, because at this point you're holding this C cover hovering up over the laptop, and that C cover still has power to it from the battery.
Chat, please.
Still has power. Still could accidentally turn it on, could still accidentally short something. I'm looking at this read chat. John is asking if it is a touch screen. You know what? I don't know that offhand. Another thing that I'm going to be doing with this is to demonstrate the symptom. The symptom is that the X key and the number 1 key and the caps lock intermittently, occasionally, don't work properly. Now there might be some debris in the keyboard itself. Once I take the keyboard out, it's highly possible I may be able to actually see some debris under those keys, because there is space there. But I don't want to take the computer apart to that extent until I know I can completely reassemble it properly. Alt tab, here we go. Is there. Apply suction cups. Really? On a fabric C cover. Apply suction cups. Turn the device over into the standard use position and open the AV cover display, exposing the C cover keyboard. Place suction cup in the bottom palm rest area as close to the edge as possible. Now they're showing one of these suction cup styles that has a lever right here that pulls the suction up. So it's kind of a really strong, and I think I have one of those. I don't immediately know where it is, but I have a few go-to places where I suspect that I have that. I think it was in one of the kits I purchased. But will it actually adhere to this fabric C cover? As close to the edge as possible. Caution, do not pull the C cover apart beyond 45 degrees, otherwise damage to the C cover FPC could occur. FPC, that's not the, is that the printed circuit? Yeah, printed, flexible, that's it, flexible printed circuit. Could occur because it's still connected underneath. So if you pull that front edge above 45 degrees, you could damage it. Do not place suction cup on the trackpad. Somebody might be tempted to do that because it's likely going to stick there better. Don't do that to avoid potential damage to the trackpad. That makes sense. Do not wet the suction cup in any way, as liquid could stain the fabric, the keyboard fabric. Place thumb holding down on the corner hinge side of the cover closest to the user as shown. Now that threw me a little bit because hinge side refers to the back of the laptop, doesn't it? So deducing by virtue of their upcoming pictures, when they say hinge side, I think they're just saying that hinges are to the side. I'm not sure yet. Place thumb holding down on the corner hinge side of the cover closest to the user. The user's at the front of it. So that wording is a little weird. Keep pressure on the hinge area to prevent back edge of cover from lifting while pulling up on the suction cup. Oh, I get it. I get it now. Yeah, okay. So what they're saying here is here's the hinge side. They want you pressed down here as you're pulling up here to prevent this from coming up and making contact or touching the display screen. Maybe that's why somebody asked if it's a touch screen, because maybe touching it
Recheck,
while this
please.
thing still has power might be an issue. Remind yourself there's always power being supplied to the keyboard. Yes, important. If you didn't read the manual, you would be clueless about all of these things. I think these are important things to know about, particularly if you're dealing with a laptop that is different than most other Surface laptops. I've heard people say they're a nightmare to work on. When I looked at that video, it looked to me like it was going to be one of the simplest replacements ever. 4 screws and a magnetic, just magnetically just pull it apart. Now, because this fabric one has the hook, there's some kind of hook mechanism involved. Maybe that's why the fabric one needs a suction cup, and maybe the metal one doesn't. I'm not sure if the metal one calls for a suction cup or not. Although it could, because the magnets might be that strong. Keep pressure on the hinge area to prevent the back edge of the cover from lifting while pulling up on the suction cup. Be careful to prevent back edge from lifting. If suction cup releases before the C cover is separated from device bottom case, then reattach the suction cup and try again. I suspect in order to reattach the suction cup, you're going to have to press it down. So that means if you've already made some progress with that clip, you're probably going to be refastening that. I just pressed the escape key on the laptop, try to get rid of my red dot. Separate C cover from device. Once C cover separation from the device bottom case is achieved, place a finger between the C cover and device region. Pull upward slightly to separate the C cover from the magnet. So you're using your finger. This is fingernail to the bottom, lifting up on it. So you're pulling upwards with your finger. Get the first little bit of separation with that suction cup. Don't use the suction cup to pull it all the way up. Now you're going to do it with your finger, maybe because the clip hasn't been disengaged yet. Ugh. Hit the wrong key. Angle C cover. Angle the C cover approximately 45 degrees from horizontal. Be sure to angle the C cover no more than 45 degrees or else risk damaging the C cover hook. So the C cover hook is still hooked. Oh, here is back here. That hook that you have to disengage is way back here at the back. I didn't even imagine that. I was assuming the hook was going to be at the front. No, the hook is way at the back. If the hook gets damaged, it needs to be removed carefully to avoid damaging the flexible printed circuit to the ribbon cable. And then a new C cover needs to be installed. We don't have a new C cover, so I do not want to damage that hook. Good to have that heads up. C cover hook clearance. Once angled, keep the angle of C cover while pulling the C cover directly toward yourself. So this arrow right here, we're going to pull the C cover forward in order to clear this hook. We're not going to pull it up to get normally when you're pulling a laptop apart, you got these hooks that disengage by pulling up against the hook so that they unsnap, and you're expecting a snap. We don't want a snap here. Snap is bad. Snap is bad. Not a Snapple commercial. No. So you can pull it forward this way. That hook is not designed, apparently, to just pull upwards. So pull it towards yourself. Be sure to avoid pressing the power button during this procedure. Reminding again about that power button. We still haven't disconnected that cable. I tried the escape key on the laptop again. The instructions don't remind me to use the escape key on my keyboard, not the laptop. They didn't put that in the manual. Disconnect the flexible printed circuit. So they're showing here that ribbon cable. There's the keyboard. And then where it connects to the base of the laptop. Disconnect the FPC from the main board with your other hand. So you're still holding the C cover hovering up over the laptop and with one hand, and with your keeping in mind there's power there, so be careful what you're touching under there to hold it. Shouldn't be hard because you got all that space on each side of the touchpad, trackpad. The FPC is easily disconnected by pulling up on the metal head vertically with a fingernail or spudger tool edge. So this would be one of those hinged, little tiny sucker hinged thing. And if you didn't know that these things hinge upward, then you might be trying other methods. But anybody who's had experience with laptops is going to recognize that connector right off the bat. Now I am planning to video record all of this and probably publish an edited video. There might be some unedited video also available as an unlisted video that I probably won't publish it as public, but have a link in the description for anyone who wants to see the unedited version. I don't want to publish that because too many people get annoyed with videos that are really long. When removed from the device, place the C cover in a safe place with the key and trackpad side down. So turn it upside down. And the FPC facing up to avoid bending or creasing the flexible printed circuit. Be sure the key and trackpad side of the C cover is protected from cosmetic damage during storage. Now for me, I'm going to be going right after replacing the keyboard in that C cover. I haven't tried to find instructions for that. Do they have instructions for that, or am I going to be on my own for it? Warning. I'm reading all of these for this job. I don't read all the warnings for a traditional Dell laptop or HP laptop that I've done many of them, and the variations are more minor. I'll still use the manual to do the sequence of events, but the warnings and cautions, I'll take a glance at them, but not quite as careful as I am with this one. It is recommended an ESD safe battery cover. This is funny. For the appropriate size. So there's a battery here. They want you to put this battery cover of the appropriate size over that as you're working on the laptop. I'm not going to need that because I'm not going to be working on the, the motherboard or fans or CPU, anything like that. To protect the battery from any accidental damage during the repair. Ensure corners of cover are aligned with the corners of the device at all times during the repair. If the battery cover is misaligned during the repair operation, in any way, realign it before continuing repair activities. Important. Yeah, I'm way over time for this because I think it is important to convince people there are times when you should look at the directions. Let go of the macho technician attitude unless you're willing to cause damage. And in my case, my clients are prepared that I'm going to charge more. Remove the SSD, removable RSSD, removable solid state drive. I've never heard it called an RSSD. Most SSDs that I've come across, they're all removable, I guess, unless they're soldered in. Whenever the C cover is removed from the device. Now, this is interesting. They want you to remove the SSD. Anytime you remove that cover, they want you to remove the SSD, no matter what you're doing on that computer. RSSD removal disconnects the battery from all device logical components for safety purposes. Who would have thunk it? That would have never been on my radar, that removing the SSD disconnects the battery from all the rest of the motherboard. Wow. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Give me an exclamation mark Y or exclamation mark N in response to that question. Have you heard of that before? Disconnecting an SSD to disconnect power from all the other devices. And then they have a page 40 for the details of that. I'm not going to be looking at that.
No way.
There's one no.
No way.
There's another one.
No way.
No way. Nobody's heard that before.
Why, certainly.
Oh, one person has. Let's see who that is. Wintermute has.
No way.
Keith, no. John Williams, no. Phil Stodd, no. Ski Man. Dave's going to check with his wife. Lawn Dog's a no, but he failed to follow instructions. He never does exclamation mark N. You can get Dragon to do exclamation mark N. Just you say exclamation mark N. Although maybe it'll do a space. I don't know. Or do a shortcut for it. Your shortcut could be called speaker bot no, or speaker bot yes, or speaker bot read chat. You know how to configure your Dragon Naturally Speaking to do that. I keep asking myself, am I on the right keyboard? Pre-installation, verify the batteries. Oh yeah, this is regarding, we're still on the keyboard. Or the C cover, not the keyboard. The C cover has the keyboard contained within it, but the C cover is that whole panel. Verify the battery's condition. Refer to such and such in battery device inspection process. Devices exhibiting battery issues as outlined in the battery inspection process require whole unit replacement. I'm not gonna go read that. All I'm gonna look for is there any evidence of swelling on the battery, any evidence of punctures, anything that looks odd. Devices exhibiting battery issues as outlined in the battery inspection process require whole unit replacement. I'm interpreting that to mean if there's any battery issues, that requires replace the computer, not replace the whole battery, replace the computer. This was my image backup scheduled time, because usually I take a break from the computer after the show. Yeah, you cannot replace the battery. Verify the condition of LDI liquid damage indicator. This was interesting too. Inside the audio jack. Now I'm going to do this and I'll get it on video because I think this is fascinating. And I have heard of this before, but I've never actually done it. Liquid damage indicator inside the audio jack. And apparently that cannot be inspected from outside of the computer. I think you can only inspect that when you have the computer open. Use a bright light to illuminate the interior of the audio jack port. Any color other than white indicates liquids have entered the device. Devices exhibiting liquid damage indicator require whole unit replacement. Replace the whole laptop if it indicates liquid damage. I have heard of laptop repair companies that just specialize in laptop repair or computer repair, that their intake process asks if there's been any liquid spilled on it, and they have a disclaimer. If we find that there is liquid damage, that changes the whole pricing structure. I think I've heard that guy in New York report that he had to contact customers back because they found damage. Oh, his name is on the tip of my tongue. All right, moving on. Check for unexpected items. Now, this one was a surprise. Good heads up here. Check for unexpected items within the device. Yeah, right, because my client accidentally got stuff inside the computer, right? Is that what you're saying? Now, this is during the reassembly. Check C cover both sides and the device enclosure for any loose articles that may be present inadvertently on the C cover or within device enclosure
Recheck,
areas.
please.
At this point, I was thinking, that seems a little excessive. Salem Techsperts. No, that's not the one I was referring to. I'm the videos that I've looked at, he spends too much time on the comedy skits for my taste. So I watched a little bit. Oh, come on. What is his name? Isn't he in New York? The one I'm thinking of that does the component level repairs with hot air guns and such. But then he's doing a lot of political stuff lately. Louis Rossman. I knew somebody was going to come up with that. And then the woman that also does those types of board level repairs, mostly on Apples. Oh, he's moved to Texas. I didn't know that. All right, enough for that break. Inadvertently, check and remove any foreign objects that the magnets may have attracted. Oh yeah, this thing has magnets. So what's the potential that it picked up something metal off of your desk? That's why they're saying check for it. This isn't even a caution. This isn't one of those cautions or warnings. This is in the actual individual instructions. Check for it. Why are they saying that? Because it has happened too many times to ignore it. That may have been accidentally introduced into the device during replacement. Carefully inspect the area around the battery, specifically for any foreign objects, before removing battery cover. That means that protective cover, that temporary protective cover. Before removing that, check to see if there's anything around the foreign objects. Install the SSD. Refer to procedure removal for details. Now, those details are probably going to remind you that when you reinstall that SSD, that means power is restored to the motherboard. Watch out. Remove the tape from the C cover. Flexible printed circuit. Tape secures the C cover FPC during shipping. Remove this tape before continuing with reassembly. Let's see what that no way was about. Austin Grace says no way with no explanation about what. Maybe he's behind in DVR mode, responding when I was asking that question. Connect the C cover, flexible printed circuit, remove the battery cover, hover the C cover over the device. So with one hand, you're hovering the C cover over the computer while assembling the C cover FPC to the main board by pressing connection using your fingers. So this little ribbon cable, which is what I've always called them, while you're holding the whole C cover, not just this keyboard, but the whole C cover. And this, imagine the C cover is above this. Now this ribbon cable is concealed. It's underneath the cover. You can't see it while you're holding this between the computer and your eyeballs. So you gotta get your hand under there. You're gonna have to be looking sideways under there somehow and slip that into that socket and close that tiny little lever. Yeah, because that doesn't sound challenging at all. These weren't pointed out in that video that I have seen. Connect C cover FPC. Oh, I already did that. Caution. Those other things weren't cautions. Here's a caution. Be sure that FPC bins fall in place properly as pre-bent. No folds or creases are created during reassembly of the cover. So it's implying there that it is pre-bent. Do you see a bend already in that ribbon, in that FPC? This did not come directly from Microsoft. I'm not sure if that pre-bent is actually there. Oh, then here's another thing on these types of cables. They sometimes have this little tab that you can grab onto. See right there, I can pinch with my fingers. The manual hasn't told me about this, so I can pinch that. So then my finger is between the ribbon cable and the motherboard, and I'm trying to put it into that slot. Okay. And here we're seeing, I think this is hard to tell what is the C cover. So is this the motherboard or is this the motherboard? And that ribbon cable is, this is concerning. That ribbon cable is not straight like the one that I have. That makes me question, do we have the right keyboard? That gives me more reason to want to stop this and order directly from Microsoft if it's available. I hadn't noticed that. And I did know that by going over this with you, it's going to help me comprehend this manual even better. That's alarming. Align the C cover. Properly align the cover to the unit using the front edge alignment posts. Carefully place the C cover back onto the unit and shift until the C cover snaps into place using the front edge alignment posts. So apparently on the front of the C cover, which I don't have a replacement C cover, so I can't look at that now. There's some kind of front edge on the edge close to me, close to the user, some kind of alignment post.
Read chat, please.
Carefully place the C cover back onto the unit and shift, move it around a little bit until the C cover snaps into place. I'm going to assume that snap is referring to magnets. Does this Surface laptop support Windows 11? Yeah, it currently has Windows 11. It was 2021 or 2020 purchase. Oh. the top C cover area under the display will protrude slightly after the C cover is placed. Okay, so these front edge alignment posts, I'm thinking that's where it's going to snap into place because of the magnetic attraction. But remember that hook on the back side? The top C cover area under the display will protrude slightly after C cover is replaced. So the back here, when it says protrude, I'm thinking it means it's going to be up. It's going to be raised because there's that hook that needs to be snapped into place. Apparently, when we're reassembling it, snapping that down is the way to do it. Press firmly on the top area until you hear a click and the C cover flattens out. Without reading this first, I would have been tempted to set the back edge of the C cover into that hook area and then set the front part down. Apparently, that would be wrong. I don't right now know why, but I'm going to trust the instructions for that. And if I hadn't read that piece, if I'd skipped over that piece, I very likely would have taken that C cover and just tried to reverse the removal instructions. Because remember, the removal, we pull the front up first and then slide it out towards us to get that away from the hook. Putting back together is not reversing that. You got to put the front down first and then snap the back down. I don't think I would have done that if I hadn't read that. Again, my point here, manuals are worth reading. They do not build they don't even attempt to build these things so that they can be intuitively worked on because they give a manual. Read the freaking manual. Install C cover screws. That's my way. I know not everybody agrees with that. That's okay. But I am giving my reasons. Install C cover screws. Close the AB cover. Okay, remember this is the C cover. Below that, the computer is the D cover. And the monitor on top is A and B. So I want to close the AB cover, close the monitor, close the screen. Turn the unit over and use the Torx screwdriver to install 4 new screws. They do not want you reusing the old screws. Curious. Now, my theory is that the screws are soft. Or, yeah, it's probably the screws that are soft somehow. And to be sure longevity so that the thing can be disassembled and reassembled safely again, they're wanting new screws. Is there some other reasons? I don't know. Screws should be installed until just snug and seated and then turned another 45 degrees, which is 1/8 of a turn, or until fully fastened. That's curious. Then run SDT. I was previously thinking that their acronym was STD. Oh, it's SDT. Did they have it written the other way before? Or was I just wrong in my head? Yes, Doug, you're wrong in the head. We all know that. Run SDT to ensure all device features and functions operate as expected. Install feet. If the SDT passes and no further repairs are to be performed, follow steps. I did the escape key on the laptop again. I'm just gonna try this. Oops, no, wrong key. Control F, not Windows key F. STD? No match. So yep, I was just wrong. You're wrong again, Doug. Just wrong. And then there's the SDT. SSD replacement process. We don't need to go through that. Like I said, I have not yet checked for replacing the keyboard into the C cover. That's C cover. AB cover touch calibration. So at least some of them are touch. Let's search for keyboard. I'm not going to go through that section if I find it. That's the C cover. Next. We've been through all of this area. Yeah, this is model 1867. The fabric type. So that video that I watched, 1868, that was metal. That's already at the end. I'm just clicking forward to all of the keyboards. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in here, which makes me think that it's probably pretty simple and straightforward. That video that I watched, it was replacing the entire C cover, not just the keyboard. So interesting. Oh, SDT is Surface Diagnostic Toolkit. Yes, thank you. That is ring true because I know that I had looked that up. Yeah, I'm not going to try to go back through all the chat stuff now. I might look through it later today. Don't know. Not making any promises. And tomorrow's Saturday. I'm planning the regular show for tomorrow. It's not going to be this laptop because I have to give this back to her today, one way or the other. I might have some non-edited, unlisted video link for you if you want to go see the very long unedited that will probably not be narrated very much. John Williams saying, thanks, Doug. You're welcome. No, he's not saying thanks, Doug. He is specifically saying thanks to Doug 1. How is he to know whether that's me? That could be one of the other Dougs around here. You can send an email to this address with a question. Myself in the chat room will do our level best to respond with an answer or point us towards an answer or work with you over multiple days. Because that's why this channel exists. One of the reasons why. All right. Short ending. Have a great day, everybody. Catch you later. Goodbye.